Dispatcher 911. What's your emergency? Caller, whispering like it is national security. My sister used canned cranberry sauce and sliced it like a loaf. This is an act of war. These Thanksgiving 911 calls sound fake, but they actually happened from a raccoon politely asking for pie to an uncle deep frying a turkey indoors, while the smoke alarm sings jingle bells to a grandma, challenging her history, denying grandson to a pie-eating duel. If you have ever considered calling 911 over green bean casserole, hit subscribe and drop a turkey emoji, because after number 43, you might hide the canned cranberry. 1. A young woman called 911 on Thanksgiving after walking into the kitchen and finding her older sister proudly slicing canned cranberry sauce like a loaf of artisan bread. The caller whispered to the dispatcher as if reporting a national threat. The dispatcher asked if anyone was actually hurt. The woman said only her faith in humanity, because the slices were arranged like steak. The sister kept smiling and offered everyone a sample as if it were a gourmet dish. Their mother walked in and gasped like she had witnessed a crime scene. The tension rose so much that even the dog backed away slowly. 2. An elderly grandmother phoned 911 because her nephew tried cooking the entire turkey in the microwave after watching a 5-second online tutorial. The microwave began shaking like it was preparing for liftoff. The grandmother panicked and told the dispatcher the bird was making strange noises. The dispatcher tried to stay calm while asking if any smoke was visible. The turkey suddenly popped and sprayed half-melted butter across the counter. The nephew claimed this was normal and called it rapid roasting. The grandmother screamed for everyone to stand back. Even the neighbor rushed over, thinking the house was under attack. 3. A teenage boy ended up calling 911 when his aunt tried to season the turkey with cinnamon sugar instead of salt, claiming it would taste like a holiday cookie. The boy panicked when the turkey started smelling like a dessert experiment gone wrong. The dispatcher asked if there was an actual emergency. The teen said yes, because the turkey was now shiny and sweet, and his uncle was threatening to serve it with whipped cream. The aunt insisted she was being creative. The entire family stared at the oven like it was about to explode. Even the family cat refused to stay in the kitchen. 4. A middle-aged father phoned 911 after his brother attempted to carve the turkey using an electric hedge trimmer he brought from the garage. The father told the dispatcher the bird was shaking on the table as if terrified. The dispatcher asked why a normal knife wasn't available. The father explained the brother said real men carve with horsepower. The hedge trimmer roared to life and sent tiny bits of turkey flying across the dining room. The children screamed and ducked behind chairs. The mother covered her face with a napkin. The father finally unplugged the tool and begged the dispatcher for emotional support. 5. A young mother called 911 because her toddler threw a tantrum and declared himself the new turkey commander and locked himself in the pantry with the dinner rolls. The dispatcher asked if the child was safe. The mother said yes physically, but emotionally everyone was breaking down. The toddler kept shouting orders through the door and demanding chocolate milk as a negotiation tool. The grandmother tried to reason with him like a hostage situation. The mother could hear him munching rolls in victory. Finally, the dad slid a juice box under the door and the child surrendered. The dispatcher tried not to laugh. 6. A college student called 911 when his uncle tried to demonstrate traditional Pilgrim fire starting inside the living room using sticks and napkins. The dispatcher asked if flames were visible. The student said not yet, but smoke was rising, and the uncle claimed it was authentic. The aunt yelled that pilgrims didn't burn carpet. The cousins opened windows as the uncle proudly blew on the tiny ember he created. The student feared the house alarm would summon the fire department anyway. Even the family dog barked like he was calling for backup. The dispatcher advised them to stop immediately before Thanksgiving turned into history reenactment chaos. 7. An older woman called 911 after finding her husband attempting to marinate the turkey in carbonated soda because he read online it would make the meat dance. The dispatcher asked if the turkey was actually moving. The woman said disturbingly yes, because the bubbles made it twitch. The husband insisted it was science. The woman said it looked like the turkey was trying to escape. Their adult daughter walked in and screamed at the sight of the fizzing bird. The grandson recorded everything for his friends. The woman begged the dispatcher for advice. The dispatcher suggested removing the soda before the bird floated away. 8. A teenage girl called 911 because her grandfather tried to baste the turkey using a giant paintbrush he found in the garage. The dispatcher asked if the brush was new. The girl said no, and it still smelled like last summer's fence project. The grandfather insisted it added character. The grandmother shouted that they were not serving timber-flavored turkey. The cousins watched in horror as the paintbrush smeared uneven streaks of butter across the bird. The girl panicked and told the dispatcher the turkey now looked like a hardware store display. The dispatcher gently recommended switching to a real kitchen tool immediately. 9. A young man called 911 after his sister decided the turkey wasn't expressive enough and glued googly eyes onto it for aesthetic purposes. The dispatcher asked why this was an emergency. The man explained that the eyes began sliding slowly down the warm turkey, making it look possessed. The sister insisted it was cute. The parents screamed when they opened the oven and saw the bird staring back at them. Even the visiting neighbor jumped. The man feared the eyes might melt into the stuffing. The dispatcher tried to keep composure while advising them to remove the decorations before serving dinner. 10. A middle-aged aunt dialed 911 when her nephew attempted to speed cool a steaming pan of mashed potatoes by placing it outside on the snowy porch. The dispatcher asked if anyone was injured. The aunt said physically no, but emotionally yes, because a raccoon immediately appeared and began pawing at the potatoes like it owned them. The nephew freaked out and slammed the door while the raccoon stared through the glass in victory. The grandmother yelled that the potatoes were now contaminated. The aunt begged the dispatcher for guidance. The dispatcher reminded her that wildlife has excellent timing during Thanksgiving. 11. A suburban father called 911 when his teenage daughter attempted to modernize Thanksgiving by replacing the turkey with a giant tofu sculpture shaped like a mythical bird. The dispatcher asked what the emergency was. The father said the sculpture collapsed and trapped the family cat underneath. The daughter screamed that the universe was punishing her creativity. The mother tried to lift the tofu, but it broke into pieces like wet cement. The cat finally crawled out, covered in soy residue and looking betrayed. The dispatcher suggested using normal food next year. Everyone agreed except the daughter who defended her artistic tofu vision. 12. An elderly grandfather phoned 911 after his son tried to grill the turkey on a cheap portable grill that couldn't support the weight. The dispatcher asked if the grill was stable. The grandfather said no because the legs were shaking like a baby deer. Suddenly, the grill tipped over and the turkey rolled into the yard like a bowling ball. The family screamed while the neighbor's dog chased it. The grandfather shouted this is why he never trusted new cooking methods. The son insisted it was going to work. The dispatcher calmly recommended retrieving the bird before the dog claimed it permanently. 13. A young woman called 911 because her brother attempted to flambe the sweet potatoes, even though he had never flambéed anything in his life. The dispatcher asked if flames were present. The woman said yes, big ones, because her brother poured half a bottle of rum into the pan. The fire briefly shot up and singed his eyebrows. The mother screamed and grabbed a fire extinguisher while the father yelled about insurance rates. The brother insisted it was controlled artistry. The sweet potatoes looked traumatized. The dispatcher advised them to remove the alcohol bottle from the kitchen. Everyone agreed except the brother. 14. A stressed-out mother dialed 911 after her teenage son tried to season the turkey using a leaf blower to distribute herbs evenly. The dispatcher asked if this was a prank. The mother said unfortunately no, because the leaf blower blasted sage across the entire living room. The father sneezed so hard he dropped the gravy boat. The grandmother fought through the herb cloud like she was in a war movie. The son insisted this was efficient culinary engineering. The mother told the dispatcher the turkey now tasted like yard work. The dispatcher suggested returning to normal seasoning methods for everyone's safety. 15. A middle-aged uncle called 911 because his cousin attempted to thaw the frozen turkey by placing it in the clothes dryer on low heat. The dispatcher asked if the dryer was running. The uncle said yes, and it sounded like a bowling ball was inside. The dryer shook violently as the turkey slammed against the metal drum. The aunt screamed that their appliance was going to explode. The cousin cheerfully said this was faster than water thawing. The dispatcher firmly advised them to turn off the dryer immediately. When they opened the door, the turkey rolled out, steaming slightly and looking deeply confused. 16. A teenage boy phoned 911 after his grandmother tried to revive a burnt pie by scraping the top with a power sander she borrowed from the garage. The dispatcher asked if sparks were visible. The boy said yes, tiny ones because the crust was turning into dust. The grandmother insisted this was problem solving. The mother yelled that they were not refinishing furniture, they were making dessert. The father stood back holding the fire extinguisher just in case. The sander left the pie flat and crustless. The dispatcher advised using a knife next time. The boy agreed while staring at the ruined dessert. 17, a young mother called 911 when her husband attempted to cook the turkey using a hairdryer because the oven was full of side dishes. The dispatcher asked if the hairdryer was actually working. The mother said yes, but the husband had been blasting the turkey for 20 minutes with no progress. The toddler clapped like it was entertainment. The grandmother muttered that she missed normal cooking. The husband insisted this was cutting-edge technology. The turkey skin started peeling like sunburn. The dispatcher recommended stopping before the hairdryer overheated. The mother sighed with relief when the experiment finally ended. 18, an older aunt dialed 911 after her nephew attempted to mash potatoes using his gym dumbbells because he couldn't find the masher. The dispatcher asked if anyone was hurt. The aunt said only the potatoes because they were flying across the counter from every impact. The nephew claimed this was multitasking in fitness. The uncle ducked as a potato chunk flew past his face. The grandmother yelled that Thanksgiving was not a workout program. The aunt told the dispatcher the kitchen looked like a potato explosion. The dispatcher advised them to retrieve a normal utensil. The nephew eventually surrendered the dumbbells. 19, a middle-aged man called 911 because his teenage daughter tried to baste the turkey using a Perfume atomizer she found in her bathroom. The dispatcher asked what she filled it with. The man said melted butter, but the smell of old perfume lingered. The daughter sprayed the turkey gracefully like she was applying luxury fragrance. The mother screamed that the turkey now smelled like lavender pastries. The father gagged every time he walked past it. Even the dog refused to get close. The dispatcher advised discarding the perfume sprayer entirely. The daughter apologized but still said the presentation was elegant. 20, a young uncle phoned 911 after his cousin attempted to test the turkey's temperature by inserting a metal skewer and connecting it to a phone app he downloaded 5 minutes earlier. The dispatcher asked if the app was legitimate. The uncle said probably not because the phone started buzzing wildly. The cousin insisted it was, reading the turkey's emotional state. The grandmother shouted that the bird was not talking, it was dinner. The skewer suddenly heated up and startled everyone. The uncle nearly dropped his phone. The dispatcher calmly advised using a real thermometer. The entire family agreed without hesitation. 21, a middle-aged mother called 911 when her elderly father tried sharpening the carving knife using the spinning wheel of an electric drill. The dispatcher asked if the knife was secure. The mother said no because her father was holding it like a medieval weapon. Sparks flew as the drill spun too fast. The uncle shouted that Thanksgiving didn't need special effects. The knife eventually slipped from the clamp and shot across the table, landing perfectly in a basket of dinner rolls. Everyone froze as if time stopped. The dispatcher calmly advised them to stop sharpening anything immediately. Even the dog backed away slowly. 22, a young adult woman dialed 911 because her younger brother attempted to brine the turkey by submerging it in the family's hot tub. The dispatcher asked if anyone was inside the tub. The woman said no, but the turkey was floating around like a spa guest. Her brother claimed the jets would help with flavor absorption. The mother screamed that the chlorine would kill them all. The father tried fishing the bird out with a pool net. The turkey bumped against the cup holders like it was relaxing. The dispatcher told them to drain and clean everything. The entire family regretted the experiment. 23, a middle-aged uncle phoned 911 when his niece decided the turkey needed holiday energy and taped Christmas lights around it while it was roasting. The dispatcher asked if the lights were plugged in. The uncle said yes because his niece wanted festive illumination. The lights began sizzling against the hot pan. The grandmother screamed and yanked the plug from the wall. The niece insisted she saw this idea online. The turkey looked like a confused holiday decoration melting under pressure. The uncle begged the dispatcher for advice. The dispatcher recommended removing all decorations immediately before creating accidental turkey fireworks. 24, a teenage boy called 911 after his father tried to check if the turkey was thawed by hitting it gently with a baseball bat. The dispatcher asked why that method was necessary. The boy said his father believed sound waves would reveal the truth. The turkey bounced off the counter like a frozen missile and flew toward the sink. The mother screamed while the grandmother shielded her face. The father insisted the technique worked because the turkey definitely sounded frozen. The dispatcher told them to leave the bat outside. The boy slowly nodded as the turkey thudded back onto the counter. 25, an older woman dialed 911 when her grandson attempted to make Thanksgiving soda by blending turkey scraps, gravy, and carbonated water. The dispatcher asked if anyone intended to drink it. The woman said horrifyingly yes, because her grandson was filming a taste test for social media. He proudly held the fizzing mixture like a potion. The family gagged from across the room. The grandmother begged him to stop before he poisoned himself. The grandson insisted it was for science. The dispatcher recommended throwing the concoction away immediately. The woman watched in relief as he finally dumped it in the sink. 26, a young father phoned 911 when his mother-in-law attempted to cool the turkey using a leaf rake waved rapidly above it. The dispatcher asked if this was some sort of tradition. The father said unfortunately no, because she claimed it created airflow. The grandmother swung the rake back and forth like she was fanning royalty. The turkey cooled unevenly, and pieces of stuffing blew across the table. The wife covered her face in embarrassment. The father told the dispatcher the kitchen now looked like fall leaves had exploded indoors. The dispatcher suggested using a normal cooling method. Everyone agreed immediately. 27, a middle-aged aunt called 911 when her nephew declared himself Turkey Inspector General and used a magnifying glass to check every inch of the bird. The dispatcher asked if something was wrong. The aunt said yes because the nephew accidentally angled the magnifying glass toward the sunlight and created a tiny smoke trail. The grandmother panicked and yelled that he was starting a turkey wildfire. The nephew insisted he was being thorough. The uncle grabbed the magnifying glass before anything ignited. The aunt apologized to the dispatcher for the chaos. The dispatcher advised keeping all investigative tools far from the kitchen. 28, a young woman dialed 911 when her grandfather tried to make stuffing the old-fashioned way by mixing it with his bare hands because he said spoons ruin texture. The dispatcher asked if he washed his hands. The woman said probably not because he just finished fixing a bike in the garage. The stuffing turned gray from grease. The mother screamed in horror. The grandfather insisted germs build character. The cousins grabbed the bowl and ran it to the sink like it was toxic waste. The dispatcher calmly suggested making a fresh batch. Everyone agreed except the grandfather, who still defended his method. 29, an older uncle phoned 911 because his daughter attempted to warm the gravy by placing the entire pot on top of a heating pad. The dispatcher asked if the pad was even meant for cooking. The uncle said no, but his daughter claimed it was gentle heat therapy. The gravy warmed unevenly and started forming a skin resembling rubber. The grandmother poked it with a spoon and made a face like she saw a monster. The daughter insisted the idea was clever. The uncle told the dispatcher the kitchen smelled like warm electronics. The dispatcher recommended reheating it safely on the stove. 30, a teenage girl called 911 when her mother tried to dry the turkey skin by using the house's giant floor fan on maximum power. The dispatcher asked if it was causing a mess. The girl said yes because the fan blasted pepper, salt, and crumbs across the entire room. The father ducked as seasoning flew past his head. The little brother laughed like it was a wind tunnel ride. The mother held the turkey up proudly like she was giving it a makeover. The dispatcher suggested turning off the fan immediately. The girl nodded and flipped the switch before the house turned into a spice storm. 31, a young uncle called 911 when his teenage niece attempted to test the turkey's crispiness by tapping it with a metal spoon like it was a science project. The dispatcher asked why this required emergency services. The uncle said because every tap sent tiny flakes of skin flying like confetti. The grandmother covered her coffee mug to protect it. The niece insisted she needed accurate data for her cooking blog. The turkey began cracking louder with each hit. Even the family dog stared in confusion. The dispatcher advised them to stop before the turkey disintegrated completely. The uncle thanked them while brushing flakes from his hair. 32, an elderly grandmother dialed 911 when her grandson tried using a VR headset to follow a digital cooking tutorial while preparing the sweet potatoes. The dispatcher asked if he could actually see the kitchen. The grandmother said no because he kept swinging the spoon into the air and nearly hit the refrigerator. The tutorial kept telling him to turn left, but he spun in circles. The grandfather yelled before he knocked over the pie cooling on the counter. The sweet potatoes were untouched and cold. The dispatcher suggested removing the headset for everyone's safety. The grandson finally agreed after almost stirring the air. 33, a young father called 911 after his mother-in-law attempted to measure the turkey's internal temperature using her old forehead thermometer from the medicine cabinet. The dispatcher asked if she understood how meat thermometers work. The father said apparently not, because she kept pressing it against the turkey like she was taking its temperature during a fever. The thermometer beeped and displayed a number meant for humans. The mother-in-law proudly announced the turkey was healthy. The father buried his face in his hands. The grandmother suggested using real kitchen tools. The dispatcher recommended the same. The turkey lay silently as if begging for help. 34, a teenage girl phoned 911 when her father decided to create Thanksgiving smoke flavor by burning a single piece of wood in a metal mixing bowl inside the kitchen. The dispatcher asked if the smoke alarms were going off. The girl said yes loudly because the entire house now smelled like a cabin on fire. Her father waved a towel around and insisted it was rustic cooking. The mother opened every window while coughing. The grandmother yelled that they were not camping. Even the goldfish looked stressed. The dispatcher suggested extinguishing the burning wood immediately. The father reluctantly complied as smoke filled the hallway. 35, a middle-aged man called 911 after his cousin attempted to shred leftover turkey using a power drill with a whisk attachment he made from coat hangers. The dispatcher asked if the drill was safe. The man said absolutely not, because it rattled like it was about to fall apart. The drill violently flung turkey bits across the counter. The cousin yelled that this was innovation. The aunt screamed and ran for paper towels. The grandmother covered the dessert table to protect it. The dispatcher calmly recommended turning off the drill before someone lost an eye. The cousin finally surrendered and unplugged the device. 36, a young woman dialed 911 when her little brother tried to thaw the gravy by sticking the frozen container under the warm air coming from the family's hair straightener. The dispatcher asked if the straightener was even strong enough. The woman said no, but her brother refused to accept defeat. The plastic container began softening unevenly. The mother yelled that he was melting the container, not the gravy. The father grabbed the straightener before it fused permanently. The brother insisted he almost had a breakthrough. The dispatcher suggested placing the gravy in warm water. The entire family sighed with relief and followed instructions. 37, an elderly man phoned 911 after watching his daughter attempt to make crispy stuffing bites by dropping spoonfuls of stuffing into the deep fryer. The dispatcher asked if anyone was burned. The man said no, but the fryer erupted with aggressive bubbling and launched stuffing chunks into the air. The daughter ducked while holding the spoon like a shield. The mother screamed that Thanksgiving was not a carnival booth. The father tried catching the flying crumbs before they hit the floor. The dispatcher advised turning off the fryer immediately. The elderly man nodded and said, "This is why he sticks to oven cooking." 38, a college student called 911 when his aunt insisted the turkey needed more moisture and began spraying it with a gardening mister labeled Fertilizer mix. The dispatcher asked if the bottle was clean. The student said probably not, because it still had a strong chemical smell. The aunt claimed she rinsed it thoroughly. The student panicked and begged her to stop. The grandmother nearly fainted when she saw the label. Even the family cat hissed at the mist. The dispatcher warned them not to eat anything sprayed from that bottle. The aunt apologized immediately and tossed the mister into the trash. 39, a young mother dialed 911 when her husband tried to carve the turkey using his electric beard trimmer because he said it had precision power. The dispatcher asked if it was cutting anything. The mother said barely, because the trimmer kept clogging with turkey skin. The husband insisted he had seen this online. The grandmother shouted that he was ruining the bird in the trimmer. The children watched with fascination as the trimmer buzzed helplessly. The father finally admitted defeat and handed the trimmer to the dispatcher metaphorically. The dispatcher suggested using a real carving knife. The mother immediately agreed with gratitude. 40, a teenage boy phoned 911 after his uncle attempted to give the turkey perfect grill marks by pressing a heated cast iron pan onto the skin like a branding iron. The dispatcher asked if the uncle understood how ovens worked. The boy said clearly, not, because the pan slipped and nearly hit the floor. The mother yelled that this was not a cattle ranch. The grandmother covered her mouth in shock as the uncle tried again. The turkey sizzled loudly and looked offended. The dispatcher recommended abandoning the branding experiment. The boy sighed with relief as the pan was finally set aside safely. 41, a young father called 911 after his sister attempted to clean the turkey by giving it a full shampoo and conditioner treatment in the kitchen sink. The dispatcher asked if the products were even food safe. The father said absolutely not because she used coconut-scented hair products and was now blow-drying the turkey like it was preparing for a photo shoot. The grandmother yelled that the turkey smelled like a tropical beach. The mother covered her nose while the children giggled. The dispatcher told them to rinse the entire bird immediately. The father muttered that only his family could turn dinner into a spa appointment. 42, an elderly grandmother dialed 911 when her grandson tried to add flavor steam by placing a scented candle under the turkey pan. The dispatcher asked what scent it was. The grandmother said pumpkin spice, which made the kitchen smell festive, but wrong. The wax began melting dangerously close to the metal tray. The grandson insisted this was aromatherapy cooking. The grandfather shook his head slowly and said this was why he stopped watching cooking shows. The candle flickered aggressively under the heat. The dispatcher calmly told them to remove the candle before the turkey turned into a fire hazard. Everyone agreed instantly. 43, a teenage girl called 911 after her uncle attempted to stuff the turkey using an electric leaf vacuum set on reverse. The dispatcher asked why anyone would do that. The girl said the uncle claimed it would save time and deliver stuffing with force. The vacuum roared and shot stuffing into the turkey so aggressively it puffed out the sides. The mother screamed while the father ducked behind a chair. The uncle yelled that it was working perfectly. The dispatcher strongly advised turning off the machine before the turkey inflated like a balloon. The girl followed instructions immediately and saved dinner. 44, a young college student dialed 911 when his elderly neighbor, who joined the family for dinner, insisted he could detect when the turkey was done by listening to it with a mechanic's stethoscope. The dispatcher asked if the turkey was making any sounds. The student said no, but the neighbor kept shushing everyone like it was alive. The grandmother covered her eyes, embarrassed. The father tried not to laugh as the neighbor adjusted the stethoscope dramatically. The turkey rested silently on the counter, looking defeated. The dispatcher recommended using a real thermometer. The neighbor reluctantly agreed, but claimed the turkey had a steady heartbeat. 45, a middle-aged aunt phoned 911 after her cousin tried injecting the turkey with melted marshmallows because she wanted dessert poultry. The dispatcher asked if the marshmallows were hot. The aunt said yes because steam was rising from the injection syringe. The turkey skin bubbled strangely as the cousin pushed the mixture inside. The grandmother screamed that they were inventing food crimes. The cousin insisted it tasted amazing in theory. The children gagged at the smell. The dispatcher advised disposing of the syringe immediately. The aunt nodded and tossed it into the sink before the turkey transformed into a sticky nightmare. 46, a young mother called 911 after her teenage son attempted to add crispy texture to the turkey by sprinkling uncooked instant ramen noodles across the top. The dispatcher asked why he thought that was a good idea. The mother said he saw it in a prank video. The noodles crackled under the heat and popped off like tiny projectiles. The father dodged a piece that flew past his ear. The grandmother yelled that they were feeding a turkey, not building a science experiment. The dispatcher suggested removing the noodles immediately. The son reluctantly agreed, but said the idea could have gone viral. 47, a middle-aged man dialed 911 when his sister tried to speed up pie cooling by placing the hot pie directly in front of the living room air conditioner, set on maximum. The dispatcher asked if this was dangerous. The man said yes because the air conditioner blasted so strongly it blew whipped cream halfway across the room. The children screamed with excitement. The pie slid across the table like a hockey puck. The grandmother yelled that this was not winter sports. The dispatcher recommended cooling pies on a counter as normal humans do. The man turned off the air conditioner while shaking his head. 48. An elderly grandfather phoned 911 when his daughter attempted to glaze the turkey by using a handheld steamer meant for ironing clothes. The dispatcher asked if the steamer was working properly. The grandfather said too well because steam filled the kitchen like a fog machine. The daughter proudly waved the steamer as if she were performing on stage. The turkey glistened awkwardly while condensation dripped onto the counter. The mother yelled that the turkey was sweating. Even the dog looked confused. The dispatcher recommended turning off the steamer before everything turned soggy. The grandfather thanked them and opened a window immediately. 49, a young woman called 911 after her uncle attempted to give thanks more dramatically by lighting a sparkler on top of the turkey as a centerpiece. The dispatcher asked if sparks were flying. The woman said yes because the sparkler snapped and sent tiny sparks across the table. The grandmother screamed and grabbed the tablecloth. The uncle insisted it added holiday excitement. The children cheered like it was a fireworks show. The dispatcher firmly told them to remove the sparkler before the turkey caught fire. The woman snuffed it out with a cup of water. Everyone sighed with relief as the table finally calmed. And those were the wildest Thanksgiving 911 calls ever recorded. If your family has ever come even close to this chaos, hit subscribe because the next list will make your holiday dinners feel normal. And if you think these callers overreacted, wait until you hear what happened in number 50. Let's just say it involves a turkey, a trampoline, and a police officer who still refuses to talk about it.